Let me start by saying that I live a pretty straight-edge lifestyle. What I saw and heard last New Year's Eve wasn't the result of some drunken stupor or hallucination. It was real. I live on the outskirts of a typical small southern town, where many of my friends reside deep in the boondocks, accessible only by dark, winding country roads. One of my friends, Darren, lives with his family in a large house nestled in one of the more upscale neighbourhoods, also tucked away in the woods. Every year they host a big New Year's Eve party, and as always I was excited to attend when I got their formal invitation. The weather had turned cold just a few days before, and the bumpy, unkempt country roads made for an uncomfortable drive that night. Usually I avoid using my brights because I hate blinding other drivers, but the sheer darkness of the forest-lined road left me no choice. There's only one structure along that road, a lone decrepit shack that looks abandoned. Sometimes, though, I'd see lights flickering inside. I always passed it quickly. As I navigated a particularly straight stretch of the road, my headlights caught something up ahead. A figure, white and motionless, at the edge of the trees. It was a woman standing perfectly still facing the woods. She wore a thin white dress entirely inappropriate for the freezing weather. My heart pounded as I passed her, relieved she didn't step into the road. But when I glanced in my rearview mirror, I saw her turn slightly, watching me as I drove away. By the time I arrived at Darren's house, I'd brushed off the encounter. The party was lively and the night flew by. We celebrated the ball drop in both time zones, and by the time everyone started leaving, it was well past midnight. As usual, I stayed behind to help clean up. When I finally got into my car, I noticed a low tire pressure warning. It wasn't uncommon during cold weather, so I decided I could make it home. But then, I remembered that woman. Was she still out there? Part of me wanted to take the long way home, avoiding that road entirely, but it would add 20 minutes to my drive. Against my better judgment, I chose the shortcut. A few minutes down the road, something felt wrong. The car vibrated unnaturally, and then metal scraping against pavement. My car came to a complete stop. I got out to check the tires, phone flashlight in hand. My stomach dropped. All 4 tires were shredded like they'd been clawed apart, deliberate. Before I could think, the woods around me went eerily silent. No wind, no rustling leaves, just oppressive stillness. Then a twig snapped. Something or someone was in the trees. I turned off my flashlight and stood frozen, holding my breath. That's when I heard it. "I see you." A soft, quiet voice. A woman's voice. Panic overtook me. I turned my light back on and scanned the darkness. At the edge of the trees, she stood, the woman in white. Her dress was filthy, covered in dark stains. Her hair was wild, and her face was grotesque, as though half her jaw was missing. But she smiled. She took a step forward. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached Darren's house. I pounded on the door until his mom let me in. Trembling and breathless, I tried to explain what had happened. Darren's dad drove me home that night. The next morning, Darren told me something chilling. That shack along the road? It wasn't just abandoned. A woman had been murdered there years ago. She'd been left for dead in the freezing cold, wearing only her white nightgown. "I don't take that road anymore,"